my mold videos, I notice they have a lot of hits, but I think what people are looking for is how to make molds for the baits. So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to make some molds. Going to make two different ones. We're going to do a senko, and we're going to do a yum salamander, which is going to be a little bit more difficult. So what I do, there's tons of videos on this. Some of them could be a little more detailed. I make my molds out of plaster of Paris. You buy a big bag like this. This is 25 pounds. It's like 15 bucks. It's cheap, and it will make a ton of molds. When I do my molds, I use these containers from the dollar store. Okay, these are real cheap. They're just Rubbermaid bowls, and they have a little angle on them. So the bottom is narrower than the top, which is key. You don't want a straight-sided mold because it's very hard to get the plaster out. These are also very flexible, which is fantastic. So I got two different ones. I've got this, and I got the square one. So whenever they fit, my baits fit in the square one, I use that. When they're too long for the square one, I use the rectangle one. I don't care about wasting the plaster of Paris. This stuff is super cheap. The way I look at it is, if I can get one usable mold out of a whole bag of plaster of Paris, then that's a mold that cost me $15. That's it. Can I buy a high quality mold for $15? No. And it's almost impossible to buy one in a bait made from a lot of these companies that's exact. Some of them are pretty good at duplicating the molds, but they're usually altered in some way. And in some cases I want the exact same bait, like on these yum salamanders. I like that twin tail. So I pre-measured my mix. There's nothing fancy. You mix it 2 to 1. So whenever I do either one of these molds, I mix the same amount. I just do 2 cups with 1 cup of water, which is 8 ounces. I bought these measuring cups. I buy these also from the dollar store. They're all like, they might even not even be $1 each, but they're super cheap. These you have to be a little careful with because they will break. I've broken the bottom out from tapping on them too hard. But I like having multiple cups because after I mix up my first one, I don't have to wait for it to dry to clean it up. I just let it harden. And then I grab another cup and I mix that one up and I keep on going with my next mold. So I can make 2 or 3 molds at a time. You have to wait for them to dry before you can release them from the container here. Some people make their own containers. They use cardboard and all that. I personally just find it's way too much trouble. This stuff is too cheap to be messing around. The other thing that I don't like is I don't like having one bait in a mold. When I go to hand pour, it's very inconvenient to pour one bait, wait, peel it out, pour another bait, wait for it to cool, peel it out, pour another bait. If I can do 3 or 4 at a time, obviously I can pour 4 or 5 times more baits. So that's the way I like to have multiples. So what we're going to do now, the secret to this plaster of Paris, if you want longer working time, use cold water. Now I don't use ice water, I just use water out of the refrigerator. It doesn't need to be that cold. You can mix it 50-50, but to get the hang of it, just take some water out of the fridge, out of the water in the door feature if you have it, and it'll give you plenty of working time. So this here, the first one, we're just going to do a 1-part mold. And then we'll shoot another video with a 2-part mold. Now I'm going to stir this all up as well as I can. I don't want any pieces if I can help it. I also use these wooden oversized popsicle sticks to stir my plaster. I don't like reusing the sticks most of the time because I don't want pieces of dried plaster getting into my mold where it could affect the bait. So I try to just mix them up, and then I'll flip the end over and use the other end. Then I throw it away. But these things are super cheap also.